Welcome back to Fit Frame of Mind, episode 6 with Alex, a powerhouse of determination and proof that it's never too late to step fully into your strongest self. At 54, Alex, who lives in Massachusetts, USA, has spent the last 5 years transforming her body, mindset, and lifestyle. After years of trying different challenges and programs, she finally found the right coach and approach that helped her achieve incredible results, and she hasn't stopped. Today, Alex lives a focused, healthy life and has taken her passion for training all the way to the competition stage. She's now a pro card holder in the wellness division with OCB, and she's not slowing down anytime soon. Her next competition is just weeks away. In this episode, Alex opens up about how she finally found the right path, the right coach, and a plan that works for her. The daily habits and mindset shifts that keep her focused. What competing has taught her about discipline, self-belief, and pushing limits. Her message for anyone who thinks they're too old to reinvent themselves. Alex's story is all about finding what works, sticking with it, and refusing to settle, no matter your age or where you're starting from. Let's get into it.
Hey, Alex, thank you so much for joining me on the call today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's super exciting to have you here. I love sharing people's stories of transformations and especially midlife and beyond. So if you would like to just start by introducing yourself, that'd be great.
Okay, well, my name is Alex, and I'm from the States, Massachusetts, and I will be 54 years old next month, actually. Got a birthday coming up. So I am married. I have a dog. She's right here. And I have been pursuing my own fitness journey over the last 5 years, and it's it's been a progression, going from just trying to get healthy to making it to the stage and actually competing and earning my pro card in the wellness division with the OCB.
Amazing. Congratulations. First of all, getting a pro card is massive. So that is
Thank
huge
you.
congrats.
Thank you.
Huge congrats doing it later in life. Let's talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that and some of the challenges you've had to face, obviously for women who are listening, in midlife, especially to help them understand what you've been through and what's really possible. So tell us about what happened 5 years ago when you started, that mindset shift and how that led you to change.
Yeah, so I had actually gained a lot of weight. For me, it was very uncomfortable. I was probably always around like 130, 35 pounds and, always exercised. But my father got sick. He had Parkinson's, and taking care of him really took a toll on me. And it was a lot of stress. Um, dealing with that, and I just I ate for comfort to self-soothe. Um, it was a very difficult time, and I'm also married, and so there was marital things going on that was also very stressful. And I turned to food, ice cream especially. I love my ice cream. So I don't know, I just ate and I would exercise, but I didn't really pay attention to, what was happening with the scale because I wasn't weighing myself. I think when I really started to notice that things had taken a turn for the worst for me was when I was wearing my Lululemon leggings and they were falling over at the stomach. And I was like, oh God, I said, this isn't good. These are leggings that are like stretchable and whatnot, and now they're falling over. So and then I wasn't feeling good. Like I started getting a lot of lower back pains, spasms. More specifically, sometimes I would get like this nausea sensation. So I just went to the doctor. Oh, here's Daisy, and got a hi, got a checkup, and they said they found that like I was pre-diabetic. My numbers were really high, and that was very concerning to me. I don't like needles. I don't have a tattoo. I would love a tattoo, but I don't have one because I'm afraid of needles. And so I just thought to myself, I can't live a life where I'm unhealthy and have to rely on, injections. I have to fix this. And so that's when, that's when it all started to happen. After my dad passed, I was just like, okay, it's time for me to focus on me and get my health right. So yeah, that was the turning point when I got that doctor's, report. I was like, oh, can't have that. Like I didn't even recognize myself anymore. And actually, my husband and I had gone away for our anniversary, and someone had taken a picture of us, and I was wearing a tank top, and I had like a fanny pack in the front, and I could see from the picture how everything was stretched so wide. And I was like, wow, I didn't even notice that until I looked at myself in the mirror. And then I was like, who are you? Like, what happened? And so, yeah, so that's how it all started, and then I found this online fitness group that's all women. It was very, very supportive. And I just, I was like, well, I want to try this and you know, see if it can work, if it can help me. And it was vegan based, and I'm not vegan, but I did try it, and I did not eat meat for 3 years, actually. I just kept doing all the programs, one right after the other. And a lot of it was because there was so much support. They had coaches, and all the women in the group were very supportive. Nobody judged you. A lot of us were going through the same thing, same path. Um, and I was very open about all the things that I was going through, my struggles, and I was always posting. So a lot of the women felt like they could relate to me. And yeah, it was really great. And I stuck with that for God, from 2000 to 2000 and what, 22 or 23, I think it was. Because I think I did my first show in 2023. So the last program that I did with them was 6 months long. And at that point, I was like, every phase of the program that I got to, I would reward myself with, buying myself something, or, getting something that was related to maybe competing. I was kind of like dabbling a little bit and testing the waters and saying, "Oh, could I actually do this? And let me see when I get to, 8 weeks how I look, and now 12 weeks how I look." And so I just kept doing things, and then finally I decided to hire a coach, and I was like, I think I can do this. And so I did. It was pretty exciting, to get to that point finally where I actually was able to stand on stage, and I was really proud of myself, and it was just awesome. It was a great experience. It was hard, um, very hard. And I'm still, in prep right now for another competition, and it doesn't get any easier, especially when you're perimenopausal.
Let's talk about all of that. I have so many questions for you. Amazing. So let's rewind it just back to, we're now 5 years ago. So you were like
Yeah.
49. And just for the stats comparison, you said you were about 130 pounds, which is about 63 kilos for those of us with kilos.
I got up to 170.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was always around like 130, 135. Sorry. Yeah. And then I got up to like 170. And
Okay.
that's when I was like not recognizing myself. And the clothes were definitely not fitting.
Yep.
That was a struggle.
And what's your height as well?
I'm 5'1".
Okay, so you're a little
Yeah.
bit shorter, so that
Mm,
that does make a big difference when you put that weight on. So,
it
and like you
did.
said, it happens really slowly, right? Like you don't realize it. So you started with this group training online process, and I just would love you to maybe talk about that mindset shift for you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, having the community was a huge part of it. You were
Mm-hmm.
training before, so what kind of training did you start doing maybe that helped you to stay focused and that camaraderie? What was it that kept
With
you
that
going?
group.
Yeah, was it just that it was short? I think you said it was like 8 weeks, and
So
what
they
was it
had
that
a
kept you going?
4 week, the first program that they had was that I signed up for was a 4 week program. And so what happened was I got 3 weeks into it. And then they had another program with a contest with a cash prize that was starting at my week 4, I guess. And so I hijacked it over into the other one. I was like, "Ooh, I want to try to, win some money here." I mean, you dangle the carrot. That was a big incentive for all of us to, to do the program, to try to win some money. And I had a really big transformation. Like I had lost, I think I ended up losing like 30 pounds, but it wasn't enough to make the top 10. But I was like so excited about like getting my body back and getting back to the gym. So that for me was a win in itself. But then I got the bug. And I was like, oh, I want to do better. I want to do more. There was like a little, an overlap. Like when the program ended, there was about 2 months before another program started up. And I noticed that during that time, old habits started to creep back in. And I would start up with the ice cream again and whatever else I was doing, pizza, just not focusing on my macros and just kind of thinking that I could eat intuitively and not put the weight back on, and that wasn't the case. And then weight would, come back on. And here I am doing another program, trying to slash it all off again and then get it off. And it was tough, constantly going back and forth and dealing with the back spasms again. And that's when I started saying to myself, I think I think I have a problem with dairy because I'm noticing by the third program that I did with that company, I was convinced that the dairy was causing inflammation in my body, which was related to the back spasms. Like I would bend over to go into the refrigerator to get something and I would like, screech and my husband would be like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I got another back spasm," so I really started saying, okay, there is something to this, maybe it was coincidental that I needed to work on my glutes, and I was eating the dairy. I don't know, but all I know is that knock on wood, I haven't, had that happen in a really long time. I am eating, animal, meat products again, eggs, things like that, but I don't dive into the ice cream because I can't control myself. I love ice cream. But I have found a solution. There's this new machine out. Um, it's a Ninja Creamy or something, and everyone's talking about it. And I'm like, as soon as my prep is over, I'm buying that machine and I'm gonna try that because I've been hearing amazing things about it.
Yeah, I've got one of those, and I definitely swear by it. You can just make whatever
I
you want,
can't
whatever
wait.
you need. High protein, yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely a
I'm
must.
looking forward to that and substitute.
So we'll talk about nutrition in a second. Let's first talk about
Sure.
strength training. Tell us a bit about your experience with strength training and how that has progressed over the years and how much you train.
So I before the programs would go to the gym and just do some weights on my own. I never really followed a structured program, right? I just would go in there and work out. Um, when I was in school as a kid, like I did sports. My thing was track, so I was always running, which I think killed my glutes growing up because I have to work really hard to grow them now. So in her programs, um, I learned that in order to build muscle and maintain muscle, running was not the best option. Long distance running. So anything over 3 miles I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna power walk. Or, so I would start doing power walking. I would be on the stairmaster for my cardio, riding the bike, a stationary bike, the elliptical, and I would like rotate them so I wouldn't get bored. Or I'd get on the treadmill and I'd bring it up on an incline. I did things like that. Years ago, I did triathlons and a couple duathlons. So, I've done a lot, but I never stuck to the weight training. Now, weight training is like my life. Like, I'm in the gym, constantly lifting weights. Um, you know, when I'm in prep, I lose my strength because, you're not eating the same amount of calories. And so that goes down a lot, my strength, but I'm still at it. There are some days that are better than others. So yeah, so I stick to the weights and I have to do cardio, but I rotate it again. I'll go swimming in the pool, something like that. Yeah.
Mix it up, keep it interesting. Can you tell us roughly like what your schedule looks like for the week? How many steps are you doing? How much strength versus cardio?
Mm. I try to keep my I try to get at least 10,000 steps in a day. Um, Cardio, it varies. It varies depending on like what point of my prep I'm in. So, like right now I'm at 90 minutes of cardio, but it can go up to, 110 minutes, 120 minutes of cardio. It just depends on how my body is responding and how it looks.
And that's per week?
A day.
90 minutes of cardio a day when you're in, and that's
When
regular.
you're in prep.
That's when you're in a prep. Okay. And so when you're
Yeah.
not in prep, when you're just building and living your normal life for the majority of the year.
30 minutes a day, 60 minutes a day, something like that. I mean, I don't love doing cardio.
And how
I'll
much
walk my dog. That's my cardio.
perfect. How much strength training would you be doing so people can understand?
6 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week. Yeah, mostly five. But if I add an extra day, it's because I want to target my glutes.
Okay, great. And roughly 30 to 60-minute sessions. How long would
Oh
you be?
God, no, never. It's always 60 minutes to maybe 90 minutes. Leg day, hamstrings and glutes always is longer.
Okay. And is that because you are now a pro card winning athlete? Like, what would you
Hmm.
say to women who, don't necessarily want to compete, but want to be strong and lean? And obviously, we'll talk about the leanness when we talk about nutrition. But, a lot of women would think, whoa, 6 days a week, an hour, I can't do that. Plus, I have to do cardio.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to them?
You can do a lot in 30 minutes. You can do a full body workout in 30 minutes. Um, you don't have to be spending all that time in the gym. That's just because we're trying to get ready for the stage. And so it's more extreme. The volume goes up quite a bit. Um, so on leg days I'm going to be, I'll take my time. I'm a little methodical about my work, and I might have to rest a little bit longer, so I have the flexibility to take more time in the gym. But you can get a really good workout in 30 minutes for sure. I mean, a lot of compound movements, that just means like doing like maybe like a squat into like a shoulder press. There's so many different things that you can do. Metabolic conditioning is really good too, because you keep your heart rate up but you're still lifting weights, and you might be moving from one exercise to the next. So it depends, but it really helps to have a coach or a trainer.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really, really good advice. And I think the other thing also is people don't have to go from 0 to 100, right? Like you started off doing,
Hmm.
bit by bit, and then you get that bug, like you said. So
Yeah.
slow and steady. So let's now talk about the nutrition side of things, because we know
Yeah.
that quote, no matter how hard you train, if you don't change your nutrition,
Hmm.
body shape doesn't change. So what have you learned over the years, obviously aside from the dairy and the vegan experience, but what have you learned? What are some of the myths that you thought before you got into competing? How do you eat when you're building compared to cutting? Give us an overview of some of your thoughts.
So I used to do intermittent fasting. I've tried that. It's not sustainable. Um, Fasted cardio, I used to do that. But I have listened to people like Dr. Stacy Sims. She's an exercise physiologist, and she will tell you that for someone who's menopausal, it's not ideal. You need to have protein within the first 30 minutes of waking up, because your cortisol levels rise while you're sleeping. And in order to, cut that off, you really need to wake up, take a few minutes and have your protein, before you get up and leave the house for work. It's really important for the body. But, I think when when someone's competing, that changes a little bit, it can change a little bit. And so, that's when it's helpful to have a coach come into play. Um, when you're in prep, you just eat more. You don't eat, you don't eat a lot of fast food. You eat more of the good stuff. You know what I mean? It's just an increase of protein. It's an increase of vegetables. Some women do better eating more carbs than others. I don't do good eating a lot of carbs. I hold a lot of water when I'm eating a lot of carbs. So reducing that and finding the sweet spot has been a little tricky. There are people who do, like a keto diet. I've done that in the past where that worked really well for me, or following the eat right for your blood type, that works for some people as well. Um, but in being perimenopausal, we have found that a keto competition style meal plan for me is working better than when we had more carbs, when we had rice, when we had oatmeal, sourdough bread, whatever. It just, my body just doesn't respond. I wasn't getting lean. And um, I had talked to a couple people that were coaches, and they recommended, why don't you try that and see. I have friends that also compete, and they said the same thing. You need to up your fats, your healthy fats. And so I said, all right, let's try it. And so literally, like, days after I started doing that, like, the scale just started dropping, and it just made sense for my body. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the best thing for every single other person. It's not a one size fits all, but for me personally, it's working. And so we're sticking to that right now. um Am I going to be afraid to go back and to eat carbs? No, because I love carbs and I love eating. But for me to get to stage lean where I want to be, it's helping me get there. I mean, there was a couple shows this year where I was supposed to do, and we couldn't do them because I wasn't ready. And I don't want to put myself out there, looking worse than I did to the show prior. So you just got to find what works for you. You just have to find what works for you. I don't, all these crazy diets that are out there, eat this, don't eat that, and drink this concoction and you're going to lose all this weight. It's unrealistic, because you want to find something that's sustainable for your life, and how you live. And so if you don't find what works for you and you're just copying, the next new thing that's coming out, I mean, you're always going to be like on the hamster wheel, you know? And I think I was there for a long time, like, oh, let me try this. Oh, let me try that. And, a lot of, competitors do carb cycling. I'm not opposed to that. I think, for people who are, let's say they're going to train their legs one day, right? Um, you need to up the carbs maybe for that particular workout. And on days where you're not weight training at all, maybe you want to, drop your carbs because you don't need them. So carb cycling works for some people. We haven't tried that. My coach hasn't tried that with me. He just was just kind of keeping things steady. But that just kind of hit a wall. I feel like once I went into perimenopause after my last show last year, um, you know, I just hit some kind of wall. And so after my last show, it was in November, right in no from December to May, I didn't get my period. And then May 24th, I got it. And I was like, are you kidding me? Now we're starting all over again. But he was like, well, that's good because now your hormone levels are, going back up. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll take that as a blessing. So it's a roller coaster. It's literally a roller coaster. And your hormones are all over the place. And so sometimes you're craving sugar, like you don't even know why you're craving the sugar the way you are. But I think I'm like, there's like a little gremlin in there, like telling me, like, oh, eat that, eat that, eat that. You want that. And I'm like, stop it. So, it's a battle for me, like personally, it's just a battle. But I've learned to, find my ways to get around that, if you will. I have found ways to just, not go food shopping right after the gym, because I would walk by the bakery with my carriage and I'd be staring at those chocolate chip cookies in the clear plastic container. And I'm like, I would literally grab that container and put it in the front of the cart and open it and eat cookies while I was food shopping. And then I'd go to the cold section and get a water to wash it down. Like, who am I? Like, what's going on? I was very obsessed with those cookies. And so I had to kind of like find different hours to go food shopping so that I didn't like allow myself to do that. So you have to be very aware of your triggers and these habits and why you're doing the things that you're doing. And it didn't happen for me overnight. I've literally like been paying attention to my mood swings and when I can go food shopping, like I said, after the gym. Okay, I'm not going to walk by the bakery. I'm going to go around the backside, where the seafood is, and you know the other side of the store basically. So because once my eyes would see something, I would start obsessing over it until like I had it and I was like, why am I doing this to myself? And so that's part of the whole hamster wheel, and it's like breaking old habits. you know um yeah, it's all about breaking habits and finding new ones and substituting, certain things like, a cookie from maybe strawberries instead, or strawberries with blueberries, or, buy yourself some yogurt. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, buy some yogurt, um, you know, fat-free yogurt, I guess, if that's what you want, and then buy like a protein powder with some delicious flavor. They have salted caramel peanut butter candy. There's brownie with chocolate. There's all these delicious flavors, and you take a scoop of that and you put it in your yogurt and you mix it up, and you can have it with fat-free, Cool Whip or whipped cream or keto whipped cream or whatever, and throw some fruit in there and just have your snack, because you still have to live, but if you're watching your weight, we have to find ways around those hormonal things, the triggers to the insulin in your body that cause the extra weight gain. you know it's all about that trigger. Anytime I think about having something I know I shouldn't have, I remind myself of the trigger with the sugar. So you got to play around with it. I've been playing around with it for the last 2 years since I started competing, because it was such a struggle for me. I'm like, how do people do this? How do they just go all in? How? And I would add the protein powder to my oatmeal just to give it that extra like flavor. Breakfast is my favorite time of the day. So I would love adding protein powder to my oatmeal, and I would literally just like eat it so slow. I'm like, this is the best thing in life. Like, sprinkle some cinnamon, sprinkle some nutmeg in there, like make it fun for yourself. Like, don't torture yourself, you know?
Yep,
So
it is.
I've had to find ways, around all the things. And people are like, well, how do you eat the same thing every day? It makes it easy for me. Like, I can meal prep and cook all this food, and then it's ready to go and all I have to do is grab it, grab it and go. If you're not prepared, then you're going to make a stop at Dunkin' Donuts. You're going to make a stop at, whatever coffee shop that is on your way to work. And you're going to be like, all right, just give me that donut, give me that bagel, whatever it is. And it's not going to align with your goals. You're just going to do it like, on a moment's, notice. I just want it. And then you're just going to have it. And you say, oh, I'll burn it off later. You're not really burning it off. You're just adding it to the rest of the stored stuff in your body. And yeah, you're not burning it off. I'm sorry to say, unless you're literally like running a marathon or doing a triathlon, you're not burning that off, guys. It's not going anywhere. It's going to the fat in the back of the arms, and or your butt someplace, but you're not burning it off. I can promise you. If you're, working in a restaurant and you're running around the restaurant, no, you're still not burning it off. You're using immediate, energy, while you're running around the restaurant, but it takes a lot more to tap into that stored energy, to get rid of it. If that was the case, whew, prep would be so much easier.
Alex, we've only got a few more minutes. I'm going to try and be really quick with the last few
Okay,
questions, but you've had
sure.
some amazing advice there and some amazing tips. Still on the nutrition side of things, can you give people an idea of what your day looks like really quickly?
Yeah, so right now, my breakfast is 3 eggs with ground turkey in the morning. And then a little while after that, I'll have a protein shake. Um, and this is how it's written out and scheduled for me to eat it. But there's also a whole avocado that I'll eat. But in doing my research and listening to Dr. Stacy Sims, and there's this other woman, Dr. Mary, I think it's Mary Claire or Marie Claire, something like that. And then there's another lady, Dr. Danielle, I don't know if it's Lyons. Great information, but they say that it's better to eat your fats at night because it helps you sleep better. So sometimes I'll push that avocado to the evening so like I can rest because my brain is like going a million miles an hour. But so protein shake, avocado, and I have 2 servings of like we'll call it 2 lunches, right? Of salmon with a vegetable. So, and then there'll be another post-workout protein shake, with my supplements in it. And then dinner will be my steak. I'll have like a piece of bison steak, like just a lean, with no fat on it. That with like either on top of like a large salad, or I'll have it with more vegetable. And oh, one thing I want to mention, I drink electrolyte water every single day now. So one of the coaches in our group, she recommended that to me last year because I was starting having some hot flashes, and I was like, how do I navigate this? This is awful. So she's like, oh, it's, the recipes in the files, read all about it. So I started doing that. So 1 gallon of water, which is right here, um, with 1 teaspoon of Himalayan sea salt and 1 teaspoon of no salt substitute. And I put that in here and I write my name on the top so nobody picks it up and drinks it or whatever. If I put it down in the gym, people know it's mine, or they see my name. If they don't, and they just keep it moving. But I bring it everywhere with me always. I stay on top of that. That has literally, like, minimized hot flashes to like maybe 1%. Like, it's so low. So I tell everybody, stay on top of your electrolyte water. When you go to the hospital, that's what they give you, to bring you back to life. So electrolyte water is huge for menopausal women. Definitely works 100%. I couldn't agree more with the electrolyte water.
Amazing. And what changes? So that's during your cut, like your prep. What
All
changes?
the time.
That's all the time. So is
Yeah.
it just the total calorie intake just changes as you're cutting?
Oh, well, yeah, as you're cutting the food, as you're getting close to the show, like I'll get it down to 1,200 calories, but it's still a lot of food. It's just like, it just depends on what the food is. Honestly, it really just depends on, and there is a way to get it up to 1,200 calories where some people are like, wow, how do you eat all that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm at 1,300 calories. Like, that is, I don't know. I just do
But
because I love to eat.
people,
So I don't mind.
so for people to understand though that that's not a sustainable amount of calories for an average woman, that's for you to get stage lean,
Yes.
and then
Right.
in general, like your general day to day, how high
Mm-hmm.
would you push it?
I mean, that really depends on each woman because it depends on how much muscle mass you have. Because muscle is like calorie hungry, so you need to feed that muscle when you have more muscle. So it's different between you and me. Like, you might have more muscle than me, and so you may be able to eat 3,000 calories a day, 3,500 calories a day. I've heard of some women who compete in bikini, eating 3,500 calories a day, and they look amazing, but they're hitting the gym, they're doing their cardio probably, maybe not as much as me because I hold a lot of body fat. Um, but yeah, they're eating a lot. So, I mean, I've been up into the 2,200, 2,500, calorie range, and I am uncomfortable eating that much because then I start to look really swollen, and things don't fit right. And I've already expressed to my coach, after this year, I want to be very careful about increasing my food slowly. Um, because I'm perimenopausal and I don't want to blow up again. I feel very uncomfortable, too heavy, and I don't want to work so hard killing myself on the cardio to get the fat off of me. It's not. That's probably why most people don't finish a competition, honestly, because all that cardio is so. I would rather go to the gym 5 days a week and do weights, without and leave and not have to do cardio, no problem. But for me, I need the cardio, so we just have to factor it in there. Yeah, but it's different for everybody. You can't pinpoint it, I mean, like I said, like I could literally eat my 1,300 calories a day, but because it's all like dense, I'm not eating a salad all day long. Like, that's not sustainable. You can't live off of a salad. You need your protein. You need to eat your protein and body weight. If you weigh 150 pounds, you want to be eating at least 150 grams of protein every single day. Divide that by 5 meals. A couple of those might have to be protein shakes, but there's always a way to get that protein in there, and you need that for muscle growth, for overall health as we're aging during this time of our lives. Like, all of that is so important. I tell all my friends, my coworkers, I tell everybody, it's just like, you got to eat, you got to eat, you got to eat. Don't be afraid to eat.
I think you've hit the nail on the head where it really is personal. And I think, like you said, having a coach to guide you, and it really takes time to figure out what's right. Because I think a lot of people think, oh, I've
Yeah,
tried something for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, a couple of months, it doesn't work. Like,
right.
you've
Yeah.
really got to give it time, and you've got to figure out what works for your body. So I think, yeah, that's the
Mhm.
best advice that you've been able to share. Just to finish up, Alex, what is some words of wisdom, words of advice that you've learned in your journey that you would like to impart on, especially women in midlife who are really struggling at the moment?
Yeah, I think what's important is that, we as women, we are caretakers, we're all about taking care of the house, the family, and we put ourselves last. And so I've spoken to a lot of women who are in that situation, where they're like, well, I don't have the time to do what you do. I have 3 kids, and I'm a nurse and I work the overnight shift, or, I've heard so many reasons. We won't call them excuses, but they're everybody's reason as to why, they can't get something done. And, and we all have our triggers too, but you have to really find your why. I say that so much now. Like, it has to be really important to you. Like, what am I trying to achieve? Like, it's unrealistic to go on Instagram and and I was doing this, so I'm using myself as an example to go on Instagram and look at all these other women who are competing, who are in their 20s and their 30s. They don't know what it's like to be perimenopausal. They don't know the struggles yet. So now you're comparing yourself to somebody who can easily build muscle. She's got these glutes that I want. I don't have those glutes. But I want them. But I guess I'll have to work another 5 more years harder to try to build them, because I'm natural. The OCB that I competed in is natural. So, we don't use anything. They have a very strict list as to things that you are not allowed to use. HRT is one of them. So, you can't compare yourself to all these younger women. We're in a different stage of life. And you have to really say, you know what, like, I've been doing this all along. Now it's time that I put myself, first, and make appointments with yourself, and keep them, keep those appointments, and definitely just, make arrangements. Like, you know, my dog is not, I mean, she's my child, right? She's not a human being, but I still have to make arrangements for the dog walker to come and take her out for me, or somebody else in my house to, what time are you getting out of work? Are you going to be able to take her out for a walk? Because I'm going to be at the gym. I don't want to stop what I'm doing to have to come home unless I absolutely have to. So everybody kind of has to be on board and supportive. I've heard of lots of women who have family members and friends who like downplay what they're trying to do, and they're not supportive. And you have to remember that that's that person's issue. It's not, it may be jealousy or insecurity on their part, or they don't want to see you, change your body and look great, because they're not willing to do it. And so they're going to stay the same and look the same way that they do, you know, and 6 months later when you're looking great, and it's going to change the dynamics in your friendship, your relationship with that person. You can't listen to the noise. You have to literally just lock in and say, I'm doing this for myself, because my 80-year-old self is depending on me to take care of me now. It's so important to take care of you now and stop depending, on medications to get you through, just so that it can mask the problem, and you can just keep doing what you were doing before that got you into trouble in the first place. Just do, be your own advocate, stick to your guns, maybe some people like book a trip. Some people will like book like a boudoir photo shoot afterwards. If you prepay for something, then you don't want to lose your money. Then you might be more likely to stick to it, and you'll create new habits. And then you're going to be like, I actually really enjoy doing this. And I need this for me. I need this for my sanity. I need this so that I can be a better mom or better wife, whatever it is, because you're going to be able to release that stress, through exercise, whatever that is. Doesn't have to be bodybuilding, just whatever fits into your lifestyle to make you feel good is so important, and you may decide, hey, you know what, I might want to try the gym now. Let me try the gym. But you really, weights is super important. I just want to say that, like, it really is important, to challenge the muscles, to challenge, to strengthen your bones, challenge your muscles. It's super, super important. You can't just like be all about Pilates and all about yoga. That can be an additive in there, sprinkle it in, for stretching, for mobility. But as we age, all the studies are showing now that we need exercise with weights, muscle building. Um, it's just going to make the difference for the long run. And, you know, again, you're not going to look like a guy. You're not going to look like a man. You're not building all this testosterone in your body. You're not going to look like a dude. You're going to tone up, and you're going to be more compact, and you're going to fit nicely into clothes, and you're going to feel good about yourself. And that right there should be, enough motivation to keep going, because we want to age gracefully. So I just say, reach out to somebody. You can reach out to me, send me a DM, like really follow along with Dr. Stacy Sims. I can't stress that enough. She's so great. She just like puts it out there plain and simple, makes it very easy to understand. She's all over YouTube and Instagram. And one of the things that Stacy Sims says is that, women are not small men. And so that is so true. Like our bodies are different, they're functioning differently, and we require different things. And don't let your doctor like brush off your symptoms. Like make sure that, if that's happening, find another doctor.
Alex, thank you so
Mm,
much. Your advice has been so on point. I'm really glad that we
thank
got to
you.
interview.
I'm so glad we did this.
Yeah, all your details will be in the caption below, and I'll
Okay.
also put them on the screen so people can contact
Yeah.
you. And you're so open and generous with your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Good
having
luck
me.
for your upcoming competition in what is it, 48
Thank you. So it's in September.
days? Okay.
I'm planning to compete at the Apex, which is September 6th in Virginia. So we have to make a little road trip. And they take the top five. So the top five qualify in my category, which is wellness, qualify to go to the Yorton Cup, which is the World Championships. And so I competed there last year. So I went with the I just went with saying like, okay, I just want to experience this and see like what I'm actually getting myself into. I still got conditioned and I did everything that I needed to do. So I presented myself professionally on stage, but I wasn't as lean as a lot of the other women. Believe it or not, my body fat was it was at 16%, and a lot of them were below that. And I just couldn't compete with that, and I knew it once I was there. And so I wasn't like hard on myself, but now that I know what it's all about, I got a taste of it. So I'm trying to get my body to, respond and get down to that next level. So like I said before, like everything is always a progression with me. Now I know that I need to kick it up a notch to be more competitive. And I would like to do that. I would like to make the top five at the Yorton Cup. So I have to place in the top five at this show coming up on September 6th. So we'll see how it goes.
Amazing, a fabulous learning experience, a fabulous mind strengthening, body strengthening. I'm really proud of
Thank
you,
you.
and just keep it up and keep inspiring other people. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Fit Frame of Mind. I hope you found this conversation inspiring, insightful, and maybe even a little eye-opening. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please drop them below. And if you or someone you know has an incredible story to share of transformation, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out via the email on the screen now. Don't forget to like and follow my page for more fitness and health tips, workouts, Zumba choreography, and plenty more to keep you moving, motivated, and feeling your best. And just a quick note, this series of interviews is for information and entertainment purposes only. The stories and advice shared are based on personal experiences and should not replace professional medical, psychological, or fitness advice. Always consult a qualified expert for your individual needs. I'm Karen Green. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.